Well, security has been stepped up at the U.S. and Israeli embassies in Ottawa and consulates in Toronto and Montreal. This after that shooting at the U.S. consulate in Toronto early this morning. No one was injured. Over the weekend, 2 Toronto area synagogues were the target of similar attacks. The Prime Minister addressing this recent wave of violence today.
Extremely concerning. We convened the incident response group on the weekend because of the situation in Iran, but also to ensure that all forces and resources of the federal government are cooperating with local police and provincial police, obviously with respect to the shootings at the synagogues. I have had conversations with members of the Jewish community. We're coordinating, as you saw from the RCMP deeming the shooting at the U.S. Consulate national security incident, and we'll use the full weight of resources and ensure that the perpetrators feel the full weight of justice.
CBC's Thomas Daigle joins us now with more on the investigation of the shooting. He is at the U.S. Consulate on University Avenue or Boulevard. I keep mixing it up. But anyway, in Toronto. And Thomas, Toronto Police and the RCMP are working together to find who's responsible for the attack. What do we know about the search for suspects?
Yeah, University Avenue, you had it. 2 men got out of a white vehicle, a Honda CR-V, according to police, at 4:29 in the morning. This is a very busy street at this hour. 4:29 in the morning would not have been very busy. 2 men got out of the vehicle, fired a handgun at the front of the U.S. Consulate building here, one of the most heavily fortified buildings in all of Toronto for sure. Then they took off. Now, police have circulated that picture from CCTV of the white Honda CR-V to try to get people who were in the area with their vehicle, perhaps a dash cam, recording around 4:28, 4:30 this morning around the areas of Dundas Street West, Queen Street West, University Avenue here, in hopes that they will be able to get a better glimpse of that vehicle, where it came from and where it headed after the attack. There is a chance that the technology in the front of the building here includes ALPR, automatic license plate recognition, but keep in mind that the Honda CR-V is one of the most commonly stolen vehicles in all of Canada. Police have not said if that one in particular had been stolen, Ian.
Interesting. So police say that they believe that there were people inside the consulate when the shots were fired. No one was injured, but I guess we've learned a little bit, and maybe this is what you were talking about a moment ago, but about security features at the consulate.
Yeah, it's heavily fortified. I was just, before we came on the air, counted the number of cameras you can spot in the front of the building from where I am standing. I counted 12, and again, that's just where I'm standing, and that's just the ones that are visible. Clearly, U.S. authorities and police, some of these cameras are marked Toronto Police, they have access to these cameras, and they would have had a very good picture of these 2 assailants who came out of that white CR-V. Whether their faces were masked or not, police have not said, but indeed authorities, investigators here have said that it is possible that the people inside at 4:29 this morning may not even have heard that there were shots fired, which would underline the discrepancy why this shooting wasn't reported to police for another hour. Here is Deputy Chief of Toronto Police speaking earlier.
This is a heavily fortified building, very secure. The glass and the walls are reinforced, and so I don't believe that there was any penetration, if you will, of projectiles into the building. In fact, it's quite possible that people in the building would not have even noticed. That's how strong this building is behind me.
I remember some years ago reporting from outside the U.S. Embassy in London. Someone had left what was deemed a suspicious bag outside the perimeter, and I mean, it was less than a minute before the whole area was cleared out for a very quick and thorough investigation. You can imagine, even though the street is reopened here behind me, the investigation continues, and I should underline, what you see in front of the building are not bullet holes, but bullet markings, again underlining how reinforced those walls and windows and doorways are, Ian.
Thomas Daigle in Toronto this evening. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This shooting is getting a lot of attention south of the border. A Democratic senator who sits on the Foreign Relations Committee was asked about it earlier in Washington.
Well, it's very troubling, and as we heard, there's going to be a complete investigation, but it speaks to why we need to ensure that Security is beefed up at all of our diplomatic facilities, our embassies and consulates around the world, particularly in the Middle East, as we're looking at this hot war that's happening with Iran, and the spillover that may happen in other places because people are upset about the war.
The U.S. Senator also said she's worried about similar incidents in the United States. She said Congress is concerned about a rise in anti-Semitism in that country. All right, let's get some analysis now on this consulate shooting, and then we'll bring in Phil Gurski, a former terrorism strategic analyst at CSIS, also the author of several books on the subject of national security. The most recent will be published this summer, and he is in Russell in Eastern Ontario. Phil, great to have you on the show. What stands out to you about this shooting?
A couple of things. First, it's good to see you again, Ian. It's been a while. One is the timing of it. 4:30 in the morning, little to no traffic on University Avenue. I know the area quite well. As I said, no damage at all to the consulate. Nobody was put in harm. Strikes me, if someone wanted to make a statement of some kind regarding what, it's still hard to determine without suspects and a motive. But if you're going to carry out an attack and try to hurt somebody, you don't do it at 4:30 in the morning in Toronto. So it's unclear at this point who's behind and what they were trying to achieve at such an early hour.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people watching this who are going, what are you talking about? Obviously, it has to do with the war, but jumping to conclusions, I'm sure, is not a good thing in an investigation.
Never is. And as someone who spent 32 years in intelligence and spent some time with the OPP's anti-terrorism section, Ian, you need more information before you can draw conclusions. I think it's the most potential is that it is linked to the war in Iran. But let's not forget, we've had attacks against Jewish institutions in Toronto going over 2 years now. And that's linked to the war in Gaza. So you can't rule that out as a possibility too. I would simply warn, Canadians and advise them to wait until the investigation follows through. If they identify suspects, if somebody makes a claim for it on social media, then we can start narrowing down exactly why this was done and what they were trying to achieve.
Anytime you fire a gun, particularly in a city with lots of people around, there's the potential for danger. So in no way am I trying to minimize that. It's a reckless act. At the same time, as you point out, 4:30 in the morning, and there are other times of the day in other places in the city where if your goal was to hurt people, to shock a city, there are other things you could do. So not only did this person choose, or these people choose, the middle of the early morning hours, but also, as far as I know, no message of responsibility as well. What, if anything, does that tell you?
Probably amateurs, probably people who are not quite sure why they did it. If they were tied to a group, you would have seen a claim of responsibility. We always see claims in the aftermath of terrorist attacks. Groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda always claim this thing immediately because it helps their cause, it helps them with their reputation. So the fact that there's been nothing public made so far suggests to me it's just two guys in a white CRV that decided to send some kind of message and use their firearms. I mean, interesting to see what kind of firearms. Were they stolen? Were they 3D printed weapons? Was the car stolen, as was alluded to earlier? A lot more questions than answers right now, but I would just give the police time to do their investigation.
If you're right, and these are amateurs, and every indication is that is what it is, and you have lots of experience in assessing these kinds of threats. But if that is correct, then do you think the mere increase in police presence will have a deterrence effect here?
Most people are cowards, Ian, when it comes to this. So if people who aren't professional would be, I think, deterred by police presence. But let's not eliminate the possibility that, they are tied to something. So they could be actors of the Iranian regime. They could be a whole bunch of other things in the middle. But yeah, I think most people, when they see an increased security presence, they're not professionals, they're not experienced, and so they're less likely to carry out something in broad daylight where they're going to be identified, they can be neutralized themselves. So let's, fingers crossed we don't see more incidents. And I would simply end by saying, let's hope we don't see more copycat incidents at the same time.
Yeah, Phil Gurski, former terrorism strategic analyst at CSIS. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Ian.